All right, I am here with this guy, and we're about to talk about singleness and being single for life and the dreaded topic of celibacy.
Oh boy. Is that why you invited me to do this with you?
Yes.
So now he tells me, see,
Yeah, so
I think you tricked me.
I think I might have.
Yeah.
So many of you know this guy, Pastor Bob Beeman. A lot of you watch his Pastor Bob Daily. He's the father of Christian rock and heavy metal, homeless advocate, doctor, a lot of stuff. And we could probably do a whole episode on everything that you do, can't we?
And I play Yahtzee.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
But there's one thing. I've known Bob since I was 14, and he's one of my best friends. And there was one.
I still like you.
Yeah,
I do.
I still like you a lot.
Thanks.
It's good. We still get along for all these years. And there was one thing in particular when I got to know him at 14 that really intrigued me and that stood out. And it's also something that whenever I mention this to them, they're really intrigued by it and kind of fascinated. And that's the fact that you are 63 years old now, and you are single and have never been married. You're a celibate and still a virgin to this day.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Well, I'm a loser.
No, you're not. Or the real winner.
Sure.
So how did you... did you make a choice to be single? I guess people
Well, it really was a choice. And let me back up for just a minute. When I was in high school, I was voted the first most likely to get married in my class.
Yeah.
That was a vote. And the reason was because I couldn't wait to get married. I couldn't wait to have a family. I come from a great family.
Yeah,
and I
you
have great siblings, and I just wanted to duplicate that again. And so I couldn't wait. And Christian, I was engaged 4 times.
I know, I
By
heard
the
that.
time that I realized that I was celibate.
Twice with the same girl.
Twice the same girl, 3 different girls, yeah. But after the last time, and I'm the one that backed out of all 4 times.
Yeah, right.
And I thought, what's wrong with me? And of course, anybody would ask that question, I'm sure. And, I'm not gay. I'm not anti-marriage. Cold feet for me. I was really excited to be married and to go into all of that.
You're dating quite a bit too.
I'm dating quite a bit. And I realized the Lord wanted me to be celibate, and I didn't know anybody that was celibate. I'd never heard of it in those days.
Now, how did you realize that? What do you remember the moment, or what was it that made you realize that?
I remember the time. We were pioneering Christian rock and roll at the time, and it was not easy. The church was not our friend. The church kept saying, you're bringing in this music that's satanic, and on and on and on. And I realized I had made a promise to God when I first started that wherever music advanced to, I would stay there, wherever it was at, however close to the edge. I would try to stay on the edge without falling off the edge. And that meant that, it was always controversial, it was always difficult. And I realized at this point, and it was during a difficult time, that I probably wouldn't be a good idea to bring a family into the situation. And so I realized that God probably wants me celibate because of what I'm doing, and I've been celibate ever since.
Oh, but do you feel like it was sort of, okay, I have to give this up, sort of like a sacrifice I need to make for the sake of it? Or did you find, was it hard? Was it a hard choice to make for you?
It was a very hard choice. And I kind of knew what God was doing before my last engagement. But I was going to try it again because I really wanted to be married.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was giving something up, but I also felt like I was kind of married to the ministry. And, Paul says in the Bible that you can do a lot more ministry if you aren't married. And by the way, the best ministry is the ministry to your family. So it doesn't mean
that guy agrees.
Yeah, that's right. But that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So those of you that are married and you think, I gave up the best ministry, you didn't. I think the greatest ministry, the one that takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication is family. So Yeah, I did make that choice, and I realized it's always been difficult. Always been difficult.
To be single?
No, to be in ministry, this
Yeah,
kind of ministry,
okay.
pioneering. I'm the one that has to talk to the pastors that are saying, you're bringing satanic rock into our country.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I still do that, in a lot of countries around the world. So, but here's the greatest thing. I feel like I have thousands of kids.
Yeah.
God still gave me my heart for
I'm
family.
one of them.
He's one of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's been fulfilled, but I didn't understand how God was going to fulfill it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, do you feel like God gave you a choice, or was it pretty much this is what I've been
Absolutely.
given? So you could have gotten married?
I could have got married, and I feel like He did give me a choice. I just saw that there was a lot involved with this.
Yeah.
This wasn't something I was going to take lightly. It wasn't something that was going to happen overnight. It took a lot of...
The ministry, you mean?
Yeah, and in the very early days, there were times, especially starting Sanctuary and the early heavy metal days, there were some times when I actually had to have bodyguards.
Yeah.
And there have been some difficult times with it, and we're talking about Christians, but...
Yeah. Bodyguards from Christians.
Yeah. So I understand that kind of difficulty. And plus, well, Christian, I met you when you were 14 in Sweden.
Yeah.
I've traveled the world many times, and
Right.
I could never have done that and be married at the same time.
Right.
Some people say, well, a lot of married people do that. A lot of married people do that at the expense of their marriage.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
Very, very true. But so how do you feel now that you're 63? Do you ever think about, I wonder what my life would have been like if I got married?
Sure. And there's still times when I think, I would have enjoyed that. I would have enjoyed being married. And, I don't regret my life, and I wouldn't go back and really do it any differently in that respect. But, man, I'm a big advocate for marriage.
Yeah, I know you
And
are.
I really believe in it. And it's the reason I'm not married, if that makes sense.
Yes and no.
Yeah, because I respect it. I know how much time it really does take.
Yeah.
And when you get married, it has to be your first ministry. And I realized that it couldn't be my first ministry. So I didn't do it.
Yeah. And I think that's probably something that's really, really difficult for people to even wrap their head around. Because I know you really well. I've known you for 16 years. And I know that you are very happy, one of the most happy, fulfilled people that I've ever met.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of married, miserable people out there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
sad.
I think some people are really, the people I talk to are really afraid that they're going to end up being single for the rest of their lives. I know some people are like, well, I struggle with, maybe I might be called to be a celibate, but I struggle with that. What would you say to someone like that?
Then you're probably not.
Because you feel like there would be more of a joy with it,
I
or
do.
peace?
I don't think I ever felt like I was giving up my life to be celibate.
Ah.
I don't think I ever felt that way. Obviously, I felt like I was giving something up, but it wasn't that feeling of dread and that feeling of my life's never going to be the same. I'm never going to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great.
Can I also say, though, Christian, that I don't think God calls that many people to celibacy, in my opinion. I just don't think so.
You think it's pretty rare?
I think it's pretty rare. I think you have to have a special calling because God designed us for marriage.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, it totally is. So now with that in mind, do you feel like being single, that kind of God fulfills sort of that void that you would otherwise have to want to meet someone? Because a lot of people have that, they have this void, even if they are happy, they want to meet, their wife or their husband.
Significant other.
Yeah. Do you feel like God fulfills that need in a way?
Yeah, I think He does. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that there aren't those times when you wish you were married, because there are, and there still are. But
maybe married people wish they were single sometimes.
And that's also true. But for the majority,
I hope you're not one of those people, by the way.
But for the majority, no, I really enjoy where I'm at, and there are some real perks to being married, and I think that's great if that's what God's called you to do. And I respect that. All of my siblings are married, and And I've got some great nieces and nephews, and I still have the best parents in the world that have been married for 65 years, and still the best marriage that I know.
Yeah, they're really amazing.
Oh yeah,
just the way they talk about each other.
Yeah, really, really love each other, and so my choice wasn't because I was soured on marriage by any means. It's because I've had such a positive look on marriage.
Right, but God just took you a different path in life.
Yeah,
basically.
and I do feel fulfilled. I have to answer that question.
Yeah.
Mentoring has been great for me, and he's one of them.
Yeah.
But I feel like
I'm happy about that.
But I think you pour your life into people, and you watch them grow. And this guy, I've been able to really see him progress in ministry, and to really be the person that he's become today. I'm very, very proud of him.
Well, thank you.
But that also fulfills some things inside of me that has a desire to be a father,
Right, yeah.
And to father specific people. So
because fathering is not
good.
Yeah, that's great. Fathering is not necessarily about biological kids, although that is part of it.
And I think sometimes some of the people that I've had the opportunity to mentor, I feel like I'm closer to them than their own father has been. A lot of them have a father that isn't active,
Exactly.
or a father that isn't there.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's actually, you come from great family.
Yeah, I have a great
your
family.
Your father is very, very
I have a
much
great
there.
father, and but I think sometimes, I've had a lot of mothers and fathers in my life. You just happen to be like the closest spiritual father, whatever you want to call it.
But God gives us a variety, doesn't He? He gives us sisters, brothers, mothers, fathers. Mark chapter 10. Yes.
Right. Takes
Absolutely.
a village to raise a kid.
It does. It takes a village.
Especially someone like me.
Yes. See, I know, especially.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Seriously.
Thanks a lot. That's really great. I think a lot of people are wondering about that. I think a lot of people don't know any celibates, and you're the only one I know. I've heard of them. These mystical.
We know they're out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Me and the
creatures.
unicorns.
Exactly. I was just going to say that.
Really.
So, yeah. So I hope you guys find that helpful, and that'll put some clarity on this whole topic of being single and marriage and celibacy. So.
And by the way, I'm celibate, but he's not. And
right now,
I am helping him find a wife. And if you want to write to me, Pastor Bob Beeman at gmail.com, if you're interested in him, I'll consider.
I'm just gonna edit that part out. Anyway, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It was great.
My pleasure. Thanks.
All right. See you guys. Love you.